Hey there, I'm Victoria, a certified Christian life coach, author, motivational speaker, and university educator, and I am obsessed with helping you navigate through life's ups and downs so that you can live day by day in God's peace despite the many external demands on your time and energy. The Choose to Think Inspirational podcast is about the delicate dance between God transforming you from the inside out and your personal responsibility for change, maturity, and refinement as a Christ follower. On the show, I'll help you connect the dots between your faith and your life in practical, meaningful ways while giving God room to do what only He can do, and so that you can shine your light for Christ and be better equipped to serve your family and help others around you. You can change every area of your life, one thought at a time. Welcome back to the Choose to Think Inspirational podcast, Brain Changer. Let's dive in. I said to my mentor recently, this series on cognitive distortions that I'm doing on the podcast has really hit me hard. To which she replied, well, how do you feel about that, Victoria? And my response was grateful. I'm so grateful that God is pointing out areas for growth for me emotionally and in my relationships. This series may be my favorite in the history of the podcast because I'm seeing changes in my life. And this is why this series is so important to you. I know that you long to be refined in your character, to grow in your relationships, to deepen them, and to become emotionally healthy in all areas of your life. This is part 5 in a 14-part series, and you heard me right. You're going to want to go back and listen to all the previous episodes, take notes, and then put those action items into play. Now, recognizing and dealing with these cognitive distortions has also been a bit painful, though I'm eternally grateful. And let's not even talk about facing off with the pride that wells up in me that wants to prevent me from admitting that I'm engaging in faulty thinking in the first place. I have been so motivated to research and produce podcast episodes that help you connect the dots between your faith and your actions. Well, in other words, what difference does your faith make in your life? Dealing with each type of distorted thinking in your mind is a great place to start. This is really good, meaty stuff that is relevant to you as a 21st century Christian. This stuff matters because your thoughts really do matter. So today, part 5, jumping to conclusions. It hits me right in the heart because I struggle with this type of faulty thinking, perhaps more than I do all of the other types that we've discussed to date. In this episode, let's define jumping to conclusions. Number 2, talk about the dangers of this type of faulty thinking. And number 3, lay out a framework for overcoming this cognitive distortion starting now. And why do you want to stay tuned to the very end to hear the remedy? Because you desire peace in your home and in your relationships. You value open and honest communication. So let's go. First, what is jumping to conclusions? It's kind of like making assumptions based on one event. An assumption is made without any hardcore evidence or facts. But let me just stop right there because before we go further, please note that sometimes it's healthy and it's also helpful to jump to conclusions. For example, when you get in your car to run to the store, you assume that most drivers are going to obey the traffic laws. However, if someone is repeatedly swerving in front of you or slowing down and speeding up erratically, you might jump to the conclusion or assume that they're under the influence of drugs, or maybe they're texting on their phone. So you try to pass them or you take a different route to avoid them altogether. Assuming can sometimes actually protect you. Do you have any hardcore facts or evidence to support your assumptions in this case? Well, only that this person in front of you is recklessly driving. You see it, you witness this, you know it. There could actually be many possible reasons for this kind of driving. But the point is, making an assumption is probably okay in this type of situation and could actually help you. Okay, but today we actually want to discuss the impact that jumping to conclusions has in your relationships and the emotional havoc it can wreak. You know what I'm talking about, those times that it is not healthy, nor is it wise to make assumptions or jump to conclusions. First, there are 2 types of jumping to conclusions. Which one do you engage more often? This one, the first one, mind reading. It's called mind reading. This is when you think you know what another person is thinking, or you think you know how they will respond in a given situation. So here's a scenario when you think you know what the other person is thinking. You text your friend. Your friend doesn't reply back like she usually does. And although there are a myriad of reasons why she may not have replied back to you, you think that because she didn't, she's mad at you. You assign emotions, attitudes, and meaning to what your friend might be thinking. You read her mind. Or here's another type of mind reading scenario where you think you know how someone will respond in a given situation. You give your husband an impromptu gift card to their favorite store, and in your mind, you picture them being so delighted and excited and blessed and doing backflips and just loving all over you. And when they're a tad less than thrilled, you think, they don't appreciate me anymore. Or you think they don't like the gift. You judge what you think they're thinking by their not so demonstrative reaction to something you did for them. Again, mind reading is a type of jumping to conclusions where you think you know what someone else is thinking, or you picture how they might respond to you in a particular situation. And in both cases, your thinking causes you to behave or respond to what they're doing in a particular way. And often it's not healthy. The second type of jumping to conclusions is called fortune telling. That's fortune telling. Now, this is similar to mind reading and is much like it sounds. You can tell the future by jumping to conclusions about what you think might happen in the future. You predict how things are going to turn out, and this prediction may actually keep you from doing or trying something really hard. Okay, let's go concrete here. Here's an example of fortune telling. You really want to write a book. This has been on your heart for ages, and you feel like your message is one that will help a lot of people. But then you allow your thoughts to wander to the future, and you predict that your book idea might not be accepted by a literary agent. And then you see yourself frazzled with trying to publish on your own. You think it will just be one huge flop. Plus, how could I ever even write that book with all these kids underfoot? And voila, before you know it, you jump to conclusions and you made deliberate actions based on that conclusion. You figured what's the use, and all of this keeps you from writing one word on a piece of paper. Now we have jumping to conclusions defined with both types, mind reading and fortune telling. So let's get down to it. What's the big deal with jumping to conclusions anyway? What are the pitfalls into engaging this type of faulty thinking? And lastly, how can you avoid it? First, here are two really big pitfalls, and they have a whole bunch of little offshoots from them, if you will. So, jumping to conclusions erodes the health of your relationships. That's the first pitfall. And number two, this faulty thinking is often based on fear and pride, which we know are not biblical approaches to life. So, let's unpack number one. When jumping to conclusions erodes the health of your relationships. Within your relationships, when you attempt to read someone else's mind, this can be utterly toxic and extremely damaging. It can cause strife, contention, and a whole lot of arguing. It can even lead to bitterness and unforgiveness. You ever catch yourself thinking that someone is mad at you, angry with you, or offish with you, and you start thinking about what they might be thinking about you? This type of mind reading can cause your pride to well up inside your heart and mind. It ruffles your feathers. You think, well, they're not going to talk to me because of this, that, or another. Well, I'm just not going to talk to them. Remember, your thoughts create emotions and then subsequent behavior on your part. As in the example of the friend who didn't text you back, you in turn may not text them back very quickly anyway, or you may leave their name off of a group invite, or maybe you give them the silent treatment, all because you think you know exactly what they are thinking. Jumping to conclusions erodes the health of any relationship. Number two, let's talk about pride. Jumping to conclusions is the kindling for pride and the fuel for fear. Now, in Kentucky, we have this wood called hickory wood. hard to come by, but it's great kindling because it goes up so fast, it ignites and it heats up your fire. So I'm saying that jumping to conclusions is the kindling or that starting wood for pride, for that big fire that it's going to cause, and it's the fuel for fear. When you jump to conclusions, it's like you're only adding to the fear that you already have. Let's say it's late and your husband hasn't come home when he normally does. He hasn't texted or called. Now, your mind starts to wander and you begin to do what? You fill in the blank, right? Worry. You allow your mind to tell what's going to happen in the future as a result. You can literally see images that support your predictions. You think, maybe he's been in a horrible automobile accident. Perhaps he's already been taken to the hospital, or maybe he actually died. And now you see his funeral. You wonder how you get by as a single mom of 3 kids. And all of these thoughts and word images swirl through your brain as you allow your thoughts to gallop off in 1,000 directions. Renegade, runaway train, you name it. But where does pride come in? Okay, now picture this. Your husband actually walks through the door 30 minutes late, and although you're relieved to see him, without questioning him at all, your pride, fostered and fueled by a whole lot of fear and worry, begins to well up. You say things like this: how dare you not let me know you wouldn't be home on time? Why didn't you call me? Do you know how frightful this has been for me? I never do this to you. And this is the second time you've done this to me. Can you actually hear the self-righteousness involved in this? Self-righteousness, pride. You're now going to blame your husband for your own emotions and fears as if he were the cause of them, when you are the one who conjured up these scenarios in your mind. You're holding your husband responsible for your faulty thinking. And well, that's blame shifting, and it boils down to pride. You're right, and he's wrong. So there you have it. The pitfalls of engaging in jumping to conclusions, whether mind reading or predicting the future, is that it will absolutely erode the health of your relationships. And it's going to reveal to you, that's the good news, kind of, that's the silver lining. It's going to reveal to you the fear and pride that may be residing in your heart and mind. Okay, so the last part, drum roll, how do we handle this issue? What does the Bible say about jumping to conclusions and what to do instead? The Bible offers you 3 concrete action items to take in all your communications with anybody, which will help you avoid jumping to conclusions and making assumptions. Step number 1 is do not judge by appearance. Step 2, ask questions first. And step 3, make sure you fully understand what's going on. So, step 1, do not judge by appearance. John 7:24 says, stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly. You want to judge correctly. When you make faulty assumptions based on someone's appearance, for example, let's say your pastor passes you in the hall at church with a serious look on his face, and you assume that he is interested in you or in your life. The Bible says to judge correctly. So you pull back and you consider the facts and the evidence. Instead, often when it comes to judgments, did you know that you will go to the conclusion that has the highest negative charge? So, in other words, this happens in your church hallway, and his appearance is very serious, and he kind of just bristles right by you. And then you make conclusions and judgments based on appearance alone. You're not considering any facts or any supporting evidence. In other words, you could consider a whole lot of reasons why your pastor walked by you in haste, but your mind clings to the one that is most emotionally and negatively charged. You have no factual evidence to support your claim. This might even cause you to gossip about your pastor, saying things like, yeah, he really gave me the cold shoulder, or he never has any time for me. Instead, you got to stop your thoughts in their tracks. The moment you're jumping to conclusions, mind reading, or predicting the future, take those thoughts captive. Don't let them be runaway rodeo ponies in your mind. You can even say something so simple to yourself like, I don't judge by appearance. End of story. So picture yourself now. You're walking down the hall. Here comes your pastor. You've got a skip in your step. You're happy as a clam. And he just hastily goes by you, disappearing in the crowd. And you're like, I wonder what's up with that. But then you say, oh, yeah, I don't judge by appearance. And you shoot a quick prayer up for him. Maybe something's going on. You obviously don't know, you don't have all the facts, and you ought not judge on appearance only. End of story. So step 1 is to stop making assumptions based on appearance, and step 2 is to ask questions. Proverbs 18:13 says, if one gives an answer before he hears, it is his folly and shame. So that means we have to hear first and then give an answer, right? And we're going to listen very carefully first and investigate and ask questions before we actually respond. In other words, if you make a judgment before you have all the facts, that's foolish. In our scenario with the pastor, you might on the spot say, hey, pastor, everything okay? Or after the church service, you could go up to him and say, gosh, you seem to be in such a hurry this morning. I missed greeting you. Or you and your spouse, if you're married, might even shoot him and his wife, if he's married, to get all the boundaries there, shoot him an email or a text letting him know that you're praying for him and he's been on your mind. If it's really bothering you, you could all out ask him, are you mad at me, Pastor? Something so simple like that, to which he would probably be like totally befuddled, right? But again, when we make these faulty assumptions and conclusions, we go to the one that's most negative and most emotionally charged, and that's where we tend to camp out. It's bizarre what we do. Well, by the way, I do that a lot with my husband, Jim, because sometimes I don't give him much allowance to express his own negative emotions, like frustration or disappointment. When I see his appearance, like the look on his face, I could easily think he's thinking something bad about me. For some reason, I turn it all back to me. I'm trying to figure that out and wonder why I do that. But when in reality, I'm not even on his mind. Recently, he was frustrated because he had so much to do at work and we had an unexpected interruption to our day that kind of jacked up his stress level quite a bit. I didn't know how to handle his troubled facial expressions or his appearance. And without thinking, LOL, that's my business, choose to think, but without choosing to think, my mind concluded he thought this was my fault or that he was irritated with me, that maybe I had, gone off track or something. So I asked him, hey, Jim, have I done something wrong? To which he immediately reassured me, not at all, but rather he just was trying to regroup with the change in plans. You see, I jump to conclusions and assumptions quite often, and he and I both are learning how to navigate this type of faulty thinking because sometimes the end result is not pleasant. In other words, if I don't ask questions to clarify things and to better understand what he truly is thinking, and if I instead harbor my own doubts and insecurities and give fuel to my fears and worries, well, I'm a mess on the inside as a result. And this might cause me to pull away from him, to run and hide, to get mad at him because I think he's mad at me. Let me repeat. Jumping to conclusions is the kindling for pride and the fuel for fear. You want nothing of it. So we first stop judging by appearance. And second, we begin asking questions before we even try to answer or figure things out. And third, we take it a step further by really trying hard to understand the hardcore facts and evidence. Proverbs 18:2 says that a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. This one's kind of like the proverb before, where we're actually applying or responding or expressing an opinion before we have all the answers, before we have a complete understanding. You long to be wise, not foolish, and you want to take pleasure or find value in truly understanding what's going on, which also includes discovering what's going on in your heart, and mind. You can rant and rave about your assumptions, and you can even go so far as to justify them, but this is foolish. Try instead to understand what is really going on in any situation. If you're afraid to actually step out and become a published author, as mentioned before, and you offer up a gazillion reasons and opinions why you might never succeed, try to get to the bottom of what's really going on here. Why are you focusing on and giving so much emotional and mind energy into predicting the outcome and expressing your opinions about what will actually happen when you really have no idea? Are you leaving God out of this picture? Why not sit down, just you and God, and ask Him to reveal to you your anxious thoughts and fear induced thoughts that are standing in the way of your reaching for your God given passions and dreams? Or if you are stuck in a pride pit, as I call them, why not thank God for allowing your emotions to be in such a frenzy in the first place? Because this means you may just be on the cusp of changing and growing. I feel that way a lot. I'm like, Lord, that's what I said at the very beginning. I'm grateful. How do I feel about all these episodes on cognitive distortions? I'm grateful because they're touching something in my heart and in my mind and that I don't want to be, ways I don't want to be, and I want to look to God for the answers, and I desire change. I desire to become holy. I desire to become more like He is. And I know that you do too. I want to partner with the Lord. You want to partner with the Lord as you change. He will heal you from the inside out. Once you're aware of the situation, you can now make a move toward more healthy thinking, I should say. In the end, we can be grateful once these things are revealed to us, because that's when change can happen. Please don't underestimate the advances of the enemy of your soul. When you jump to conclusions, attempt to mind read, or predict the future, you play on his team. You are coming into agreement with him, the fear, the worries, the stress, the anxiety. And remember, he's a deceiver and a liar. Steer clear of him. Don't let your thoughts get the best of you. Take them captive, bring them into the light and the truth of what Christ says, and actively ask God to transform you and renew your mind. If he could do it for me, he'll do it for you. So there you have it, brain changer. Jumping to conclusions, mind reading, predicting the future, and making assumptions are all so bad for your emotional health and your relationships. Start rejecting those types of thoughts that lead you in the wrong direction, and you will surely find that peace and health that you're looking for. Choose your thoughts and words wisely. And once you're on a good track of thoughts, keep on trucking. Your brain will love you and your relationships will flourish. And until next time, you keep living your best thought life. God bless you. And thank you for tuning. And that's a wrap, brain changer. And listen, if you like what you hear, would you leave us a 1 to 2 sentence review at Apple Podcasts? Share the link with a friend or tag me on your share on social media. It would mean the world to me and would help us to keep shining the light of Christ and sharing the good news to others who are in need of encouragement. Please visit us on our website at choosetothink.co. That's with the number 2, choosetothink.co, to get on our monthly newsletter list. And if you need a guest speaker for your next women's retreat or church event, I'm your gal. Email me at choosetothink@gmail.com, and that's with the number 2, choosetothink@gmail.com. Finally, I offer limited free mentoring sessions each month where you and I can chat to help you develop a strategy for your thoughts in any area of your life. I'm a certified life coach and I have something to share. Visit choosetothink.co and click on mentoring for more details. Also, keep in mind that the messages on this show are for informational and educational purposes only. Please consult your medical doctor for all medical issues. Thank you again for tuning in. God bless you.